Have you ever imagined a better version of yourself? You imagine yourself waking up with discipline, speaking with confidence, taking care of your health, building something meaningful, staying calm under pressure and living with a sense of purpose. You can see that person so clearly in your mind. But then you look at your actual life and think, why am I still not that person? The problem is not that you don't know what you want. The problem is that there is a gap between the person you imagine and the habits you repeat every day. And today, we're going to work on closing that gap. Because becoming the person you admire doesn't happen through motivation alone. It happens when your daily choices slowly begin to match the person you want to become. Version of you that exists in your imagination. A calmer you, a stronger you, a more disciplined you, a more confident you, a person who doesn't constantly seek approval, doesn't give up easily, doesn't waste hours comparing their life with someone else's, and doesn't run away whenever life becomes difficult. You may have imagined this person many times. Maybe you've even promised yourself, from tomorrow, I'll change. Tomorrow comes, and somehow the old habits return. You wake up late. You postpone the important work. You spend too much time scrolling. You overthink what people think about you. You make excuses, and at night you wonder why you haven't changed. But here's something important to understand. You don't become a new person by waiting for the perfect day. You become a new person by making different choices on ordinary days. Your future identity is not built in one dramatic moment. It is built quietly through the small decisions nobody notices. So today, let's talk about 4 powerful shifts that can help you stop merely imagining the person you want to become and start becoming that person. Most people spend a lot of time imagining who they want to become. They imagine being successful. They imagine being confident. They imagine having discipline. They imagine being peaceful. They imagine having a meaningful career, healthy relationships, financial stability, and a strong mind. There is nothing wrong with imagination. In fact, imagination can give direction to your life. But there is a danger when imagination becomes a substitute for action. You can spend so much time imagining your future self that you begin to emotionally experience the destination without actually taking the journey. You watch motivational videos, you make plans, you create new routines, you write goals in your notebook. You imagine yourself waking up early tomorrow and changing your life. And for a moment you feel different. But feeling different is not the same as becoming different. The person you keep imagining is asking you for something very simple. Practice being me. If you imagine yourself as a disciplined person, then ask yourself, what would a disciplined person do in this moment? Not tomorrow. Not next Monday, right now. Maybe the answer is to put the phone away. Maybe it is to finish the task you have been avoiding. Maybe it is to wake up when the alarm rings instead of negotiating with yourself for another hour. If you imagine yourself as a calm person, practice calmness when someone irritates you. If you imagine yourself as confident, practice speaking even when your voice shakes. If you imagine yourself as healthy, practice choosing what supports your body instead of what simply satisfies your impulse. If you imagine yourself as courageous, practice taking one uncomfortable step instead of waiting until fear disappears. This is where transformation begins. You don't need to become the complete version of yourself today. You only need to behave like that person in one small moment, because identity is strengthened through evidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you give your mind evidence that you are becoming trustworthy. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you give yourself evidence that you are disciplined. Every time you remain calm instead of reacting, you give yourself evidence that you are emotionally stronger. And slowly, something beautiful happens. You stop saying, I want to become that person. You begin saying, I am becoming that person. The difference is enormous, because your identity is not created by what you wish for. It is created by what you repeatedly practice. Think about a musician. They don't become skilled because they imagine playing beautifully. They practice scales when nobody is watching. Think about an athlete. They don't become strong by imagining the championship. They train on ordinary mornings when motivation is nowhere to be found. Think about a wise person. Wisdom isn't created by collecting beautiful quotes. It is created by practicing patience, reflection, humility, and understanding during difficult situations. Your future self is not asking you to perform a miracle. Your future self is asking you to practice one decision, one habit, one difficult conversation, one disciplined morning, one moment of patience, one courageous action, and then another. There is a quiet relationship that determines the quality of your life. It is the relationship you have with yourself. And one of the biggest reasons people lose confidence is because they repeatedly make promises to themselves and repeatedly break them. I'll start tomorrow. I'll exercise every day. I'll stop wasting time. I'll finally work on my dream. I'll wake up early. Every broken promise may seem small, but deep inside, your mind is keeping a record. When you repeatedly tell yourself that you will do something and then don't do it, you slowly stop trusting yourself. And when you stop trusting yourself, even your biggest dreams begin to feel distant. So don't begin by making 10 promises. Make one, a small promise, something so simple that you have very little excuse to break it. Read for 10 minutes, walk for 15 minutes, write one page, spend 30 minutes learning a skill, wake up at a particular time, put your phone away during one important task, then keep that promise. Not perfectly, consistently, because self-respect is not built by saying beautiful things to yourself. It is built by proving to yourself that your word has meaning. You don't need to impress the world. You need to become someone you can depend on. And when you keep small promises consistently, something changes. Your confidence becomes quieter. You don't need to tell everyone you're disciplined. You know it. You don't need to announce that you're changing. Your actions show it. You don't need constant motivation. You have built trust with yourself, and that trust becomes the foundation for bigger changes. Sometimes you know exactly what you need to do, but you don't do it because it feels uncomfortable. You know you should leave the unhealthy habit. You know you should have the difficult conversation. You know you should stop chasing someone's approval. You know you should start the work you've been postponing. You know you should take responsibility. But your mind says, maybe later. Why? Because the familiar feels safer than the unfamiliar, even when the familiar is hurting you. This is why growth often feels uncomfortable. When you become more disciplined, you lose some comfort. When you become more confident, you may have to face rejection. When you become emotionally mature, you may have to stop blaming others. When you become independent, you may have to spend some time alone. When you become serious about your goals, you may have to say no to things that once entertained you. And this is where many people turn back. They think discomfort means they're doing something wrong. But sometimes discomfort is simply the feeling of leaving an old version of yourself behind. Don't run from every uncomfortable feeling. Learn to ask, is this pain destroying me, or is it developing me? There is a difference. Growth can be uncomfortable without being harmful. The person you imagine becoming may require you to do things your current self doesn't enjoy. That is okay. You are not trying to protect every habit you currently have. You are trying to build a life that your future self will respect. So when growth becomes uncomfortable, don't immediately quit. Pause, breathe, remind yourself why you started, and take the next small step. Most people think transformation happens during extraordinary moments. They imagine one big decision, one breakthrough, one opportunity, one perfect morning when everything suddenly changes. But life doesn't usually transform that way. Life changes through ordinary days. The day you choose to get up when nobody is forcing you. The day you finish your work even though you're not motivated. The day you stop arguing with someone who only wants your reaction. The day you choose learning instead of endless entertainment. The day you forgive yourself for the past and decide to move forward. The day you stop comparing your journey with somebody else's. These moments may look insignificant, but they are not. Your life is made from these moments. Imagine taking one small step every day toward the person you want to become. One day of discipline may not change your life. One healthy meal may not change your body. One page may not change your knowledge. One calm response may not change your personality. But repeated over months and years, these small actions become your identity. That is the secret. Don't obsess over becoming a completely different person overnight. Focus on becoming slightly more aligned with the person you admire. Ask yourself every morning, what would the person I want to become do today? Then do one thing that person would do, not 10 things. One, because eventually the distance between your imagined self and your real self begins to disappear. And one day you will look back and realize something. You didn't suddenly become that person. You became that person quietly, through thousands of ordinary choices, through mornings nobody saw, through failures nobody celebrated, through moments when you wanted to quit but continued, through days when you didn't feel confident but acted anyway, through times when you were afraid but still moved forward. The person you keep imagining is not somewhere far away. That person is being created by what you choose today. So stop waiting for a different life to begin. Begin with a different choice, and then another, and another, until one day the person you used to imagine becomes the person you recognize when you look in the mirror. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, who is the person I keep imagining? What does that person do differently? How does that person think? How does that person respond when life becomes difficult? And most importantly, what is one thing I can do today that proves I am becoming that person? You don't need to change your entire life today. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to become perfect. Just become a little more intentional, a little more disciplined, a little more courageous, a little more peaceful. Because the life you want is often waiting on the other side of the small decisions you keep postponing. The person you admire is not created by wishing. They are created by practice. So don't just imagine your better self. Start living like that person, one choice at a time.